I think there's a lot of cool traditions that they have. One of the things I really loved on like All Saints Day or Halloween, and then also on Christmas, they take candles and they go and light them by the graves of their ancestors. So you can go out there and walk around just a graveyard, and it's all lit up with these candles. And I think it's just a really cool opportunity that they have to go and to remember their history and to remember their heritage. But also, it's a beautiful view for just to walk through there, and it's very very cool. Another thing too on New Year's that they do is they heat up like I think it's tin on like a stove, and they give you like this little piece of tin, and you heat it up on the stove until it's like liquid, and then you throw it into a bucket, like a sauna bucket, like full of ice water, and so you heat it up and you throw it in, and then you take it out and you hold it up and you put a light behind it, and then it's supposed to show you like what the next year is going to be like. So I think I only did it one year, but I think I had like mine looked like a chicken, so I can't remember what we decided on that I was going to eat a lot of chicken, or that maybe I was a chicken. I'm not sure exactly, but it was just a lot of fun, and you can kind of just joke around, and it was just a good thing to do with the members, and really helped us understand just like the culture and just the traditions of that. Christmas is always a really big deal as well, and it's amazing. I was actually able to, in Rovaniemi, the place where I served, they have a Santa Claus village, and every year on the 23rd, Santa Claus leaves for his journey around the world. And so obviously Santa Claus lives in this village in Rovaniemi, which many people don't know, but they do now. And so it was really cool because he just gets off on, he just gets in his sled and just starts riding off and starts his journey around the world. And so Finns actually celebrate big Christmas on Christmas Eve on the 24th. That's when they get all of their presents, and it's when they have like their big meals and stuff. And then on the 25th, it's just kind of another day to eat and just kind of eat the leftovers of whatever they had left from the day before. So I mean, it's a very cool tradition, very cool things to do there, and as well, I think just like the sports and the games that they play. Hockey's really big, but you also play Sathlu, which is like floorball. It's kind of like floor hockey, which is so much fun. A good thing for the missionaries to do on P days. Go and play Sathlu with the members. And I think it just kind of helps you understand a little bit of the culture and what they're doing. It's just a lot of fun to get engaged with those things and all the other games and just kind of things that they play, as you can do those on P-Day, and it's just a whole lot of fun.
As far as culture, all those kind of things with Finland, so people are very traditional. They have, honestly, and they're very ordered, and generally very ordered, and have like a set of rules or things they live by and they do that they have always been doing. And so I guess to start off, a quick history about Finland. So Finns, they don't have good feelings towards Russia just because of World War II with the Nazis and everything. Finns are actually I guess they agreed with the Nazis so they wouldn't get conquered to do shipbuilding and other kind of stuff, and also like supply them with certain things so they wouldn't be conquered and by the Nazis. And so, but then at some point during the war, Russia just was like, okay, whatever. And so Russia actually, the Nazis didn't, but Russia decided to attack Finland. So you ask Finns and they love telling you all about this because it's honestly a huge part of Finnish culture. I mean, the Finns population is now it's 5.4 million, but at that time, I don't even know, it's probably like 4 million or maybe less. And Finns are very spread out as far as the cities. You'll have a city and then like nothing forever and then a city. So people are living very far away from each other. But anyway, a smaller population, you have this huge you have Russia come attack Finland on the eastern border, and so they call it the Winter War, and it's just a war where Finland held off Russia. the temperature at that time, it was one of the coldest winters, and it was about negative 42 degrees Celsius or something. Very cold. I think it got colder. I could be wrong, but it was extremely it was freezing cold, and so. And the Finns pride themselves being able to outdo Russia with the weather and everything. And so, but anyway, yeah. So the Russians attacked Finland, and Finland held them off, and got. Pushed them back, but they ended up losing an area of Finland, a large area, you could say, a nice little sliver on the side, and they call it Karelia, is what it's called in English. And so, and you'll learn all about like the culture with the the Karelians and like what about them and that kind of stuff as you're in Finland, what makes them unique, and as far as language wise, and there's a lot of things of that. But anyway, so they were conquered. I mean, so that part of Finland was taken, and so they don't have good feelings towards Russians really at all. They don't like Russians too much. But you will have an opportunity to serve near the Russian border in a place called Lappeenranta. It's about 25 kilometers from Russia. Then there's also Joensuu and Savonlinna, which are also just a few hundred kilometers. But anyway, so that all ties. You come to Finland. They're very, since being a very ordered people, they have a very strong political view. They're very, you could say they're liberal in their thinking as far as it goes. So politically wise, so they have high taxes. I think it's about 42% tax, and I think it also depends on your income. Very high taxes, but medicine is free, and so. And that's so anything like that, you go to the hospital, it's all free. It isn't very high quality, but it is like throughout Europe, it's one of the higher quality medical places. But since it's free, they don't pay doctors or those kind of people. I'm a pre-med student, so I studied this a lot when I was there, but they don't pay very high for those kind of professions, and so not many people go into it. And so then it's not the highest quality, but it's free. And so that's why people love it, and it's good enough quality for where they are. It goes when you meet a Finnish person. A common thing to do is you always give them a handshake and a nod, not like a full body, a nod, and they usually will tell you. You always say your name. Sometimes they'll say the last name, then first name, or just your first name. It's very common, and that's how you learn people's names. And you need to remember their names. It's I mean, obviously in any kind of culture, it's sort of rude to forget their name. In America, we always ask people their names and forget 2 seconds later, and so that's what I do. And so that's one thing as far as etiquette, you could say. One random thing about eating, they have. If you watch them as you're eating, they won't tell you to do this as missionaries because they understand like you are not from their culture, so they will not expect you to do anything like this. But as you're eating the food, fork in the left hand, knife in the right, and you keep it like that the whole time. In America, we do it a little differently. You usually cut it with the right hand, and then you place the knife down, put the fork in the right, and then you eat it. In Finland, it's way different. You very, very rarely will you eat anything with your hands. It's dirty. And so any kind of time you have a meal, there's always a main course, and always, no matter what time of day, there's always a dessert afterwards. Whether it be a fruit bowl or some sort of ice cream, they'll always provide a dessert. If there's 5 or more people though at the table, and you need to wait to eat a dessert. You gotta wait to eat it until everyone receives their serving, and then you can pick up your spoon and start eating. If there's less than 5 people, you can feel free to eat whenever you want. And when you receive your food, whenever you receive your food, you're allowed to start chowing down immediately. But if there's more than 5 people, for the dessert, this is the rule for the dessert, not the main course. But when there's more than 5 people, then you need to be waiting, And so you'll notice the kids are very well educated with etiquette, because when they get their dessert, they're sitting there waiting for everyone else to get it, and you got to do the same thing. Because I mean, they're not going to tell you to do it, but you need to do it. Finns are too nice to tell you to do it, but they will love to see that you understand their culture by doing that. Traditions. Some more things: when you walk into someone's home, you will always take your shoes off, no matter what. They don't have carpets; they all have hardwood floors. But if you wear your shoes inside the home, it's very disrespectful. And so you want to make sure. So that's one thing as far as getting shoes. What I had, you want to make sure your shoes are easy to untie. Are not difficult. So I ended up getting zip-on boots because you go into the home, zip them off, you take everything off, you put it on the racks and everything, and they're very nice. They'll come take it off for you or help you, assist you, and that kind of stuff. But you want to make sure you're on top of that and you don't be disrespectful, because they will not tell you you're being disrespectful. And Finns are too nice to do that. And so you take off your shoes, take off your clothing, like your outer clothing, not your clothing. Holidays, Christmas is the biggest thing in Finland. There's 3 days of Christmas. There's Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then the day after Christmas. And so they're all holidays. They open their presents the evening of Christmas Eve. There's no shops open. They love Christmas. Santa Claus, you don't know that. I mean, I didn't know this growing up in America, but Santa Claus lives in Finland. I don't know if you knew that, but he lives in the North Pole, the Arctic Circle. There's Santa's village. It's an actual village you can visit if you're up in the north. If you're up in the North Zone, they call it the North Zone, then you might have an opportunity to have a zone conference up at Santa's village. I never got to go there, but I saw many pictures and it was beautiful. But yeah, Santa's up there with his elves and everything, and it's the biggest thing. Christmas, everyone has a Santa Claus come to the home, give the presents, and during Christmas, they, as far as food, they eat the casseroles or different kinds of meats. But it's not like in America how we'll have tons of lights and this huge thing. It's more of a mellow, relaxing kind of time. Everyone will go to church on Christmas Day, and then as far as the Lutheran, was about 86% is Lutheran, and so they'll go to church on Christmas Day. And so it's just, Christmas songs are slow, and they could be seen from Americans as being boring, and so they will adopt a lot of American culture into their Christmas because they want to spunk it up a little, because it's a little it's a little dull in their minds sometimes, and the newer generations think so. But then they have other the summer solstice, because during the summer the sun will never go down depending where you're living, and so they'll have I think it was June 26th is the summer solstice or something. They'll have big parties and that kind of stuff. They have Vappupäivä, which is I think it's Independence Day. Oh, it's not Independence Day, it's a Freedom Day or something. And just many days where, you got to be careful because there's a lot of drinking and that kind of stuff. So your mission president will not allow you to be going out during those days. You could look it up. It's the number one place for mothers in particular. And that's because, so first off, they have a very high appreciation for women in Finland, and they have, there's no discrimination really. I think the current president is actually a woman right now. And so, or the last president was, I can't remember, but they had a woman president recently. And so, but yeah, so it's a very safe place because they have such a small amount of crime. It is that people are so honest and trustworthy. You leave your bike out unlocked for days and no one will take it. If you lose a scarf or something, or like a glove or a nice hat or anything, people will hang it up on a tree near where they found it on the ground instead of taking it. So people like are very honest, and they just don't like they're just very loving in that kind of way. And so it's such a very safe place. You don't have to worry about anything except for like being cold. Like besides that, it's just like there's no crazy bugs. Like you'll have mosquitoes during the winter time. I'm sorry, during the summertime. And honestly, there's nothing else to really worry about. And so, but yeah, it's just a very safe place. Very clean, extremely clean. You'll learn how to recycle like crazy. And yeah, it's just, there's nothing to worry about in Finland as far as it goes. If you have any worries, there's nothing to worry about. I mean, it's cold, but that's not even that big of a problem. Like, you get over cold pretty easily. But yeah, there's no, like, I mean, you might go to places in the world where you're worried about being out late and someone's gonna rob you or something, but you don't have to worry about that in Finland. No one's ever gonna do that. I mean, maybe you might have like a drunk guy that's a little scary on the street, but that's about it. So, but that's pretty safe for that.
One thing that everybody's going to hear is that the language is hard. And it is. There's like really no way around that. There's 19 cases for verbs. There's 19 cases for verbs. There's like 6 different conjugations. I read once in a book that there's 5,200 different derivatives of every verb, which really makes it a memorization game. I mean, it's pretty bad in that sense. But I remember in the airport, we were at baggage claim, and there was a mom talking to her little kid, and she was like, babbling in baby talk, like the most simple Finnish, and I had no idea what she was saying. So just none. I was completely clueless. So the language is like the first weird thing about being in a foreign place. You walk down the street and nobody is speaking English, but people are just carrying on like everything's completely normal, and it's really, really weird. It's also weird leaving and getting back into English. I would say there's 3 big cities, especially for the missionaries. There's a bunch of missionaries in Helsinki and the surrounding areas. There's also a bunch of missionaries in Tampere and that surrounding area. And then in Turku, which is down on the southwestern coast. If you get the chance to go to Turku, it's really the nicest part of the country. It's old, so it's very Swedish. Really pretty countryside. You're right on the ocean. The city's big, but it's not that big. So looking back, Turku was really kind of a hot destination while I was there. That's where a lot of people wanted to go. Later on, they moved a bunch of missionaries up to Oulu, up almost at the Arctic Circle. And those were kind of the 4 cities where all the zones operated out of. And then you'd have missionaries kind of scattered all over from there. A lot of people work for Nokia. Obviously, the company Nokia is Finnish, especially the closer you get to Helsinki. So Espoo, that ward that I started in Espoo 2, it tended to be kind of the place where the Nokia members kind of congregated, as well as anybody that wasn't Finnish. There's a handful of Americans that married Finnish women that are living there, a handful of British guys, and they all work kind of in the same ward. So the English was like just incredible in Espoo, and like I said, probably 40, maybe 50% of the members I felt like worked for Nokia. So that was kind of neat. The food is really plain and really boring. They don't really do anything other than use salt. Nothing's spicy. Nothing's sweet. We would kind of always make fun of that it was pretty bland. Somebody told me once that Finns love to live, he said, keskellä ei mitään, which, when you learn Finnish means literally out in the middle of nowhere. So Finns are the most happy when they don't see their neighbors, when they don't have to see anybody else. They tend to be kind of reserved people, which is really neat. And when you get to know them, it makes it really special. But a significant portion of the population, obviously there's a lot of people that live in Helsinki, a fifth of the population, but a huge majority of people too live in cities of just a few thousand people, and they live so far away from their neighbors that you'd never really see anybody else. You know, I remember going to a couple dinner appointments where we drove an hour and a half to get to somebody's random house that was out in the middle of nowhere. They love lakes. If you have a house on a lake, you've got everything in the world you could possibly want. Finland declared their independence on December 6th from Russia during World War I, and they're incredibly patriotic. I always thought that Americans were hands down the most patriotic people in the world. So I feel like we have a good reason to be. You know, we fought for our freedom, and then I met the Finns, and they are every bit as patriotic as Americans are. They declared their independence, and it lasted for about 12 years, and World War II broke out, and an agreement between Hitler and Stalin was that Stalin could have the Baltic, you know, Estonia, Finland, Lithuania, Latvia. And so Russia invaded all of those areas, and they took all of them over, you know, without a fight until they got to the Finnish border. And Finland fought them 3 different times. At one point, the Russian army was bigger than the population of Finland, and Finland won all 3 times. And it was miraculous. There's a lot of different things that went on that contributed to that. It was the coldest winter in recorded history in Europe. The Russian army, the tanks froze. The Finnish army was trained to fight on cross-country skis. But, you know, you had a small little army defeat the Russians, and they still remember it. And they're still very, very patriotic about it. They sing Oi Suomi, Finland, which is kind of a national anthem of sorts. Most people recognize the tune because it's Be Still My Soul. It's actually a Finnish hymn. It's a Finnish song about Finland, and they sing it on Christmas during Independence Week. And it's funny because Finns don't show a lot of emotion. They don't really cry a lot, especially the older generation. I heard once that the word I love you really only gets said, you know, a handful of times in somebody's life. Like, you don't really tell somebody you love them unless you absolutely do, and it's a really, really special situation. So they're really reserved, but when they sing the national anthem, it was really funny because everybody would cry. So there'd be all these really rough and tough older guys in the wards that were just bawling. That was a pretty neat experience. After World War II, they were the only country that paid off their debts to the United States and other countries. Everybody else defaulted. And then they also had to pay Russia back for the wars that they fought as part of the stipulation. And it made the country super poor for a really long time. It made the people learn how to work very hard. And in my opinion, it made the Finns a little more conservative and a little different than most of their European counterparts. I remember talking to an older guy about his childhood, and he told me that one of the things that he remembered was being hungry and cold all the time. But anytime he'd see a train going towards Russia, it'd be full of wood and coal and food. And he remembered thinking, like, wow, that'd be really nice if we had wood for our fireplace, if we had coal for our fireplace, if we had food at night. Because that was just the situation that they lived in, where all the excess that they had was going to pay off other countries. It made a very unique people. It possibly is probably part of the reason why they tend to be a little reserved and a little coarse on the outside sometimes, is I think a lot of them still remember that. The Mormon Tabernacle Choir went to Finland to do a concert, and they sang Be Still My Soul, and it offended some of the members. They were really upset that the Americans would come. They love Americans, I shouldn't say it like that, but they were really upset that people would come and take the Finnish hymn that is so sacred to them and change the words and sing it to them. I thought that was really funny. The more they like, hey, we can sing Be Still My Soul. And they're like, no, don't sing our hymn. Leave us alone. I mean, it's almost a national anthem to them. They do have a national anthem, but I almost felt like they liked Oi Suomi more. So I always thought that was really funny.